Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today I want to talk about some of the books that I have read recently. So by mutual agreement, we're just gonna pretend that my shelves aren't a mess behind me. Also, I just filmed a book haul, and if you could see what was happening beside me right now, actually, let's just expose myself. Oh, you can see a little bit of it. I just don't want to like mess the camera up that much. Can I? Oh, there's more. Yeah, there's more. Basically, that's what the hole over there looks like. So we're just gonna pretend it's not like that. There's books on the floor there too. Let's fix this and pretend we have the appearance of having our lives together, shall we? So hello, I have read 5 more books, and every time I read 5 books, I like to do a little recent reads going over what I thought about all the books that I've read. So these are the 5 most recent reads of mine. I will have timestamps in the description box down below, so then you guys can skip to a certain book if you wanted to just hear about that one, but I won't be spoiling any of them, so don't worry if there's any of these that you have not read yet. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear any shooting. My boyfriend is gaming, and I've asked him to turn the volume down like 5 times, and he thinks he has, but it still sounds like we are like on a battlefield. So I apologize for that, but I have just learned to tune it out. Anyways, let's just get into the books. I'm gonna try and keep this a little bit shorter because I think sometimes I can drone on in these videos, as I do with most videos. I don't know why I'm acting like that's any different, but we're just gonna try and keep it short and sweet. So first of all, we have The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. This book, if you haven't heard of it, we obviously hang out in very different areas of the bookternet, because this is like so hyped up on TikTok and on YouTube and on pretty much every platform possible. And that's how I heard about it. It's just been everywhere, and it has been wildly popular. So I was really nervous going into it because I was like, there's no way I'm going to enjoy this book as much as everyone else had, especially because like when there's that expectation, as much as I try to lower it, it makes it like unachievable. So this book is very different than what I thought it was initially about, I'm not gonna lie. For some reason, when I read the synopsis, I thought there were like 2 different guys, but there wasn't. I just can't read. Quite unfortunate, isn't it? Good thing I don't need that for anything that I do in my life. But this is actually about a PhD student, and her best friend is like really into this guy that she had gone on a date with, but there were no feelings there. I think they may have gone on like a couple of dates, but it wasn't really anything. But her best friend is convinced that there was something there, or that she still has feelings and it's gonna hurt her, so she doesn't want to start dating this guy until she knows that Olive has moved on. So then when her best friend passes, Olive like kisses the first guy that she sees, which just happens to be this professor who's kind of like an asshole in their department, and the 2 of them start this fake dating arrangement to, not that she's lying to her, but like know that she's really not into this guy anymore. And it's for him because the department has thought that he's been thinking about leaving, so they have pulled his funding. They've like frozen all his funding, so he can't do any of the research that he wanted to do. Essentially, it's not a workplace romance, it's more of like an academia romance, but it still has kind of the same vibes as a workplace romance, but better because it's a different setting. It was really interesting dealing with a female character in academia and seeing how she's treated and how hard she's working, and I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also did really love the fake dating. I thought it was adorable. Like, I understand why people have enjoyed this book so much. It was very, very, very slow burn though, and I'm not the biggest fan of slow burn. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the attention span for it, so I kind of like my romances to move a little bit faster than this one did. However, there were some like really good steamy and angsty scenes that were just very well done that like I wasn't expecting, but I was like, why is this so good? But it really was. I also did really see the compatibility and chemistry between Olive and Adam. I felt like they worked very well together, and I didn't think there was like a weird power dynamic, which I was kind of worried about going into it just because he was a professor and she's a student, but it's not like that at all. Like, they are close in age and everything. It's really not that weird, but I think this was very sweet, and I will definitely read more from this author. I understand why people have been enjoying it so much because it's very different than the typical romance because of the setting and everything. I think the fake dating was well done. I do think that like the stakes for her were kind of meh. Like, I know that she's really close with her best friend and everything, but I was kind of like, this seems a little bit ridiculous, I guess, for her to be like fake dating someone because her best friend wants to date. It just felt like kind of a stretch. And I understand it's kind of different than the typical, like usually fake dating stories. There's only so much that you can do, right? So a lot of the times it's like making an ex jealous or something like that. So this was different than other fake dating stories that I've read. However, it just felt a little bit, not unbelievable, but kind of unbelievable, I guess, but that didn't bother me all that much. I just wish the story were a little bit faster paced and there was a little bit more going on, because it felt like there was a lot of slow burn, a lot of angst, a lot of buildup of the relationship, and then all of a sudden it became a lot more, and I just wish that it would have been more of like a steady build, if that makes sense. I'm just not the biggest fan of slow burns, so yeah, that's just personal preference, but I do really enjoy this one. I thought it was super cute. Next is another book that I read for TikTok, and I actually was doing a reading vlog for this, but then I didn't end up doing it. So instead I posted a video about like TikTok recommended romances and if I think they are actually worth the hype that they have. So I'll link that down below for you guys. But the other book that I read is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I think this book is fascinating to me because I don't really know where the hype came from. I'm not sure who hyped it up, but someone did like a good job, and this author must be so thankful, like, because TikTok is like priceless when it comes to advertising a book. So like kudos to them for hyping this book up. I know a lot of people have really, really loved it. I was not one of those people. I didn't hate it. This just felt like I expected to be blown away because I kind of heard about this book just as much as I had The Love Hypothesis when I was asking for like something for Bookmas. I kept on getting this book and I was like, where, like, I hadn't heard of it before, but then it came up just as often in my answer box as The Love Hypothesis. So I was like, okay, this book must be like the big, like, real deal. And I read it and I was just kind of underwhelmed. So this follows the main character, and she is going to her sister's wedding. She's from Spain and her sister is getting married in Spain, so she has to go back to Spain for her sister's wedding, but everyone has been bothering her about being in a relationship and who she's gonna date and blah blah blah. So she's trying to find a date to her sister's wedding, and she ends up lying and giving the name of her coworker who she actually does not get along with at all. So it's an enemies to lovers romance, and his name's Aaron, and she says it's Aaron. So then he agrees. He's like, yeah, I'll go, like, whatever. And he's very willing to go with her on this trip, and he goes, pretends to be her date and her boyfriend and everything. So obviously it's enemies to lovers and fake dating. I'm not a big fan of office romances so much, but I'm also not the hugest fan of enemies to lovers. I think like romance is really interesting because there's so many tropes that it relies on, and everyone has different favorite tropes. So I know enemies to lovers is a huge one, like hate to love. People love that. I'm not people, but there are some books that feature that trope that I have enjoyed. However, fake dating, I do really love. So I think the big appeal of this one is Aaron. I've seen so many TikToks coming up about Aaron and him being like the best book boyfriend, but I just felt like I'd read this book before. You know, it wasn't really anything that blew me away. It wasn't anything that special. The writing, I felt like it was quite a bit overwritten, so that kind of put me off of it a little bit. And there were also certain scenes and certain wordings that I was like, I hate that. Like, that made me like cringe and want to leave my entire body. Particularly, there's a line about milking that like, I just could not. That was a little bit much for me. But like, everyone has different levels of smut and different writing that they enjoy. So no judgment to anyone who has enjoyed this book. For me, it wasn't really it. You know, I had higher expectations. I don't think it needed to be nearly as long as it was. There were some interesting plot points, but I felt like it was a little bit disconnected in a way. So their relationship was cool, but it just I've read books that are similar, but do it a little bit better. Next up, I listened to the audiobook for Ace of Spades by, I said I was gonna look up how to say this author's name, so give me a second. So Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. This I listened to the audiobook for because as I'm working, I have like lots of time that I can listen to audiobooks, so I've been trying to do that so then I can still keep up with reading. And this was super cool. So this is a dark academia story, and it's really commentary on institutionalized racism. And I was just like, blown away by this one. There were so many twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, and so many reveals where I felt like I knew what was gonna happen, but then I totally didn't. And the two main characters were fascinating to me. Like, everything about this just felt like this tangled web that was put together and just expertly woven. It was so cool. So this is set at a private academy, and it's in like an ambiguous setting. It's not really said that it's in the UK. It's not really said that it's in North America. It's just kind of an ambiguous setting, and the author did that intentionally to show that these things happen everywhere. But at this private academy, you have two students. One has been like working her entire life to get into, I can't remember if it's Harvard or Yale, but she has been like incredibly dedicated. She has been prefect every single year, and now she's finally senior prefect. And then there's this guy who has been very under the radar, and he ends up surprisingly being named prefect as well, so he's really confused about it. But then this thing comes out, which is called, what's it called? Aces. And listening to the audiobook for this one, it was so Gossip Girl, and I didn't watch Gossip Girl growing up at all, but it just had those vibes. Like, I know enough, I have seen a couple episodes here and there, that I could totally pick the vibes out. It was like kind of that Gossip Girl Pretty Little Liars vibe, where Aces is revealing these secrets and this like creepy information about these two characters, and they're trying to find the connection between the two, because there's not, like, they've never really spoken or anything, and the only thing that's connecting the two of them is that they're both black. And you see, like, slowly it's revealed who Aces is, what Aces is, like how it's doing what it's doing. Everything about it was just like, whoa. Like, every single reveal had my jaw on the floor, and every time there was like an Aces comment, the way that the audiobook narrator read it brought like chills to my spine. It was incredibly well done, and these two characters were so well fleshed out, the world and everything. Oh my god. This was incredible. For a debut, I was completely blown away, and I will definitely be reading more from this author because absolutely wow. Next, I have Winterwood by Shea Ernshaw. So this is by the author of The Wicked Deep, which is a witchy story, and this is another witchy story, but it's witches in winter. So I've been meaning to read this for like a few winters now, and now I finally got to it, which is really exciting. So it's off of my TBR. When I read The Wicked Deep, I was slightly disappointed. There were just kind of some things about it that I wasn't entirely comfortable with, like how the relationship went and everything. And I will say that I enjoyed this one more, but I didn't love it. Like, to be entirely honest, I kind of entirely forget this book. I did read it. I know for sure that I read it, but I don't really remember. So yeah, that's kind of the bottom line. Like, I read so much this book that some of the books just kind of like slip through the cracks, and this was one that did that. But it's about a town that has this woods surrounding it, and the woods are magical or cursed, and then this guy ends up going missing there, and it's just this whole mystery dealing with witchcraft and like different spooky things. So it's kind of like an eerie, spooky winter read, and it was cool. But definitely not one that exactly stuck in my memory, obviously. And the final book that I wanted to talk about today, I did a good job of being quick and snappy today, partially because I literally don't remember this book at all, and I didn't write a Goodreads review, which is very unhelpful to me. But the final book I wanted to talk about is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. So this is the final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, which is this romance trilogy, just companion novels that are following the Brown sisters, starting off with Chloe, who's the oldest. I think she's the oldest. It goes in order. Then we have Danny, who's the middle, and now finally we have Eve. She's the younger sister. I didn't really enjoy Chloe that much. Like, I liked it, but it just wasn't really, it was enemies to lovers, but it felt like a weak enemies to lovers. Kind of like that was part of my problem with the Spanish Love Deception. They weren't really enemies, but it just wasn't one that was for me. Danny, super enjoy it. It was fake dating. It was just really cute. All the way through though, I have adored Talia Hibbert's writing. Like, I can't wait for her to come out with more books because, oh my god, her writing is incredible. But Eve I was really excited to read about because I'm actually the youngest of 3 sisters. I have 2 older sisters. So I felt like Eve was going to be one that was very relatable for me, and she was like even more relatable than I expected her to be. So I really loved this one. I'm not sure if this one or Danny Brown is my favorite. They might be tied, but I absolutely adored this one. The romance was, oh my god, so good. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Jacob, but I loved him, like the bed and breakfast vibe and everything, and how Eve is like, she has always been, her family's pretty well off, so she has always kind of been trying to find a job that works for her, but she gives up really quickly. She moves on to the next thing. So her family has cut her off until she actually finds something she can stick to. So that's how she ends up going to this bed and breakfast to work there, and she ends up actually like literally hitting the owner with her car after, Jacob, and there's just this adorable romance that ensues after that. It's so cute and just, oh my god, it warms my heart. But there was a lot about Eve that I could relate to. She talks a lot about feeling like she's on the outsides of everything and she doesn't really fit in, and I felt like that was really relatable. Like so much that was like deep to my core that I don't know if it's because she's the youngest or I just found her to be a really relatable character overall, but I was like, I feel that way. Like I really feel that. So it just spoke to my soul, and the romance between the two of them, it was so like equal parts adorable but steamy, and I think that's what Talia Hibbert does really well, is a great mix of the two of those, and Eve Brown was no exception. I'm really sad that the Brown Sisters trilogy is over, but I'm so glad like that it happened. It was so fantastic, and if you haven't read these books yet, I highly recommend them. They are amazing. Okay, so those are the books that I've read recently. When I have another 5, I will do another one of these videos, but please let me know if you have read any of these books, your thoughts on them. I've been kind of slower with my reading lately, but I'm trying to pick it up again. I just haven't had a lot of free time to do much where I actually have like the mental capacity to read, but I'm going to try and squeeze that in because I need to like do things that I enjoy, and reading is something that I enjoy, and I just haven't been making time for those things, but that's something that I'm going to be working on. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another new one soon. Bye!